You are not poor until you behave like the poor. The secrets that distinguish people who succeed from those who constantly face failure? Of course, yes. But the most important thing that defines your position is not the amount of money in your wallet. It's not the size of your bank accounts or how much property you own. It's how you perceive the world and yourself in it. And here's what's important to understand. You are not poor until you accept poverty as your destiny. Many people mistakenly think that poverty is simply the lack of financial resources. But in reality, poverty is something more. It's a state of mind, a lifestyle that you choose for yourself. It's when you begin to accept that you can't achieve something or that the world is simply against you. It's when you allow yourself to sit in the corner, waiting for help from the outside world, hoping someone will save you when you're in trouble. But you know what? That's not what defines your poverty. Poverty is a state of your mind. Machiavelli wrote a lot about how it's important to understand that power and success don't happen by chance. These things must be earned.
And for that, you need to have the right mindset that allows you to act within constraints. It's important to understand that poverty doesn't start with money. It starts with your attitude toward the world. You become poor not because you lack material wealth, but because you start thinking and acting like a poor person. Have you ever noticed how easily you can be influenced by the opinions and expectations of others? We live in a world where new standards and new ideals emerge every day. Social media, television, advertising, they all tell you what you should have in order to be successful. And if you don't meet those standards, you start feeling like a failure, poor, unnecessary. But that's just an illusion. You are not poor as long as you don't allow yourself to believe you don't deserve more. The image of a poor person is not only about how much money they earn. Poverty is when you can't think strategically, can't work for the future, can't plan your life in the long term. It's when your life becomes cyclical, when you just live each day without thinking about how it affects your destiny. You wait for help instead of creating opportunities for yourself.
You don't take responsibility for your life because you're used to trusting circumstances or waiting for someone else to solve all your problems. In reality, poverty is not the absence of wealth. It's the absence of control over your life, your decisions, your time. And when you stop seeing poverty as an inevitable circumstance, when you start acting from a position of strength and confidence, you immediately begin to change. You become a person who creates their own destiny. You are no longer a victim. You are the main player on your arena. Ask yourself, what are you afraid of losing? That is your weakness. If you are afraid of losing something, then you are already weak. The outside world senses your weaknesses and will use them against you. But if you are not afraid to lose anything, if your independence doesn't depend on external factors, then you become dangerous. That is power. Understanding this changes everything. From the moment you start acting with confidence in your future, nothing can stand in your way. Poverty, like success, begins with your state of mind.
And when you start thinking like a person who has control, who has goals, who has the ability to influence their life, you are no longer poor. Even if you don't have wealth at the moment, you start thinking like someone capable of creating it. And this is where true strength begins. Machiavelli said, "A man who fears losing everything has already lost everything." This doesn't mean that you need to be indifferent to everything. It means that you must be ready to lose anything for your independence, for your strength, for your ability to build the future. When you stop depending on material wealth and start valuing your inner control, you become invincible. So don't dare say you're poor until you decide to act like a strong person. Don't dare think that you have nothing until you start building. Because poverty is not about money, it's about your attitude toward the world. And when you begin to control your perception, you begin to control everything around you. Everything you have is the result of your decisions. Every action you take, every choice you make, every step you take shapes your life.
But what happens when you let yourself behave like the poor? How does that affect your reality? When you start thinking that you lack something important, when you start feeling fear and a wave of anxiety over your resources, you begin to create that reality. It's not just about money or resources, it's about psychology, your attitude towards yourself, your perception of the world around you. Let's look at it from another angle. Poverty is not only financial deficit, but also the state of your soul, the state of your consciousness. Someone who feels poor often doesn't realize that their poverty isn't about not having money. They think that poverty is simply the result of external circumstances, and that's a mistake. It forms the belief that your life is not in your hands, that you have no choice. It's this belief that makes a person weak. They start to act on autopilot, following the stereotypes that others impose on them. Their decisions become reactions to circumstances, not conscious steps toward a goal. They start relying on chance, on luck, on external forces, while successful people understand one simple truth. Everything that happens in your life is the result of how you perceive the world and how you act in it. Now, let's analyze how this affects your behavior in reality. You start choosing short-term pleasures that give you temporary relief but lead to no long-term results. You indulge in your weaknesses, satisfying them instead of looking toward the future and acting in your own interest. You begin to justify your weaknesses. You justify your mistakes, avoid taking responsibility for your failures, and start blaming others. This is the path to defeat, to powerlessness, and even greater disappointment. You don't control your life because you believe that external circumstances dictate how you should live. But what if you start changing this perception? What if you begin to think that all your actions are part of a bigger plan that you are building yourself? You will stop seeing poverty as inevitable. You will begin to see it as a temporary condition, as a stage that can be overcome if you change your approach to life. You will start noticing opportunities that have always been around, but you couldn't see them before. You will act, not react. What's the difference between strong people and weak ones? Strong people don't consider themselves victims of circumstances. They understand that every decision they make matters. Every action or inaction opens new doors or closes them. Weak people, on the other hand, often choose to stay in their comfort zone, even if that comfort zone is one of poverty, lack, and helplessness. You start to understand that your perspective on things matters. Every time you justify yourself, you hand control over to external factors. When you begin to think that your life depends on other people, you lose your power. You become a slave. You create limitations and boundaries for yourself that you can't escape. Machiavelli was right when he said that weakness breeds helplessness. His entire philosophy boils down to taking control of your life and your decisions. He taught that a person must be ready for battle. But the battle isn't just with external enemies. It's the battle with yourself, to see your strength, your power, and learn to be responsible for what happens to you and around you. But how do you take the first step toward taking responsibility for your life? First, you need to understand that poverty is not just the lack of money. It's the lack of opportunity, the lack of awareness, and the lack of control. You can be rich even if you don't have $1 million. You can be rich even if you don't have external success, because wealth begins with mindset. When you stop feeling that you need something, you stop being dependent on external factors. You begin to see your inner resources. You realize that you are not poor until you start acting like a poor person. Poverty is not about your finances. It's your attitude, your ability to be in your inner world, your ability to make decisions and shape your reality. You begin to understand that poverty in the mind is your greatest enemy. It's the feeling that you can't, that you lack, that you don't deserve. But if you start thinking differently, you can change your reality. You can act with confidence, not waiting for someone else to solve your problems. You will take your destiny into your own hands. You can start right now.
Make the decision that poverty will no longer be your choice. Make the decision that you will take responsibility for your life. You will stop waiting, stop hoping for someone or someone. You will begin building your life with confidence and strength, knowing that this is your path and you chose it yourself. Remember, you are the one who creates your reality. You are the one who can become the master of your life if you act. Stop waiting. Stop being afraid. You are not poor. You just haven't seen your true power yet. Now is the time for change. No matter how much you have right now, you can change your life. Start right now. Look at the world around you. Look at those who surround you. Do you notice how often people end up in poverty, not because of the lack of money, but because of the lack of inner strength and understanding of how to work with reality? The path to poverty starts not in your pocket, but in your head. This path is not a chain of events, but a set of habits that repeat in our lives constantly. We convince ourselves that poverty is the result of external factors, not realizing that in reality, we are programming ourselves for failure. We don't see that the only real reason for poverty is our own thoughts, fears, and complexes that we keep reinforcing day after day. People who find success do so not because they are lucky. They become successful because they don't give in to the internal limitations created in their minds. In contrast, those who remain in poverty don't solve the problem in their heads. They try to fight external circumstances, not realizing that the fight starts first and foremost with changes inside themselves. Think about it. When you feel poor, what happens to your thoughts? The moment you begin to think that you don't have money, or that you lack something, that you can't achieve something, you activate the justification mechanism. You start explaining to yourself why things are so bad, why you can't achieve more. And it's at that moment that you start limiting yourself. You might think, well, I just don't have the money to start a business, or I won't be able to earn enough to change my life. But do you understand that you are creating these limitations yourself? You program your life for poverty yourself. When you think that you lack something, you comply with the system. You follow all the rules that were imposed on you from the start, but which were never truly yours. You begin to believe that poverty is not just a financial situation, but something more. Why does this happen? The answer lies in your inner state. We all create our reality in our minds. Those who think that the world is cruel and unjust often end up being right, but not because the world is that way, but because they see it that way. The way we perceive the surrounding reality directly influences how we act, and our actions, as a result, determine what happens to us. When you believe that you can't achieve something, you are creating your own failure. At some point, you start thinking that your circumstances are something you can't change. You believe that your life is predetermined and you can't go beyond its boundaries. This is what makes you poor, not how much money you have, but how you feel about yourself. Imagine that you've always thought that you can't get a high-paying job because you don't have the right education or experience. This belief will hold you back from trying. It will pull you down, even though you might be perfectly ready for such opportunities. It's a limitation that you set for yourself. But what if you start seeing the world differently? What if you begin to perceive poverty not as something that is destined for you, but as a condition that can be changed because it simply reflects your inner beliefs? This drastically changes your perspective. Remember, wealth is not just money, it is control over your life. It is control over your time, your state, your thoughts, and your emotions. Those who can manage their inner state can also control external circumstances. Now imagine that you take full responsibility for your life. You no longer blame external circumstances for your problems. You don't make excuses, you don't blame the economy or a crisis. You say to yourself, yes, I don't have what I want right now, but that doesn't mean I can't achieve it. I'm not poor. I am in the process of creating.
When you start perceiving the situation like this, you begin to act differently. You stop waiting for someone else to come and solve your problems. You don't ask for help. You don't wait for approval. You stop making excuses and start taking action. You understand that it doesn't matter what you don't have right now. What matters is how you act, where you direct your energy and attention. When you begin to move with this confidence, you attract opportunities. You stop being weak and dependent on others and start becoming a source of strength capable of influencing the world around you.
You don't just hope for the best, you start creating it. Remember what separates a poor person from someone who can become wealthy. It's not the money, it's the internal perception. It's your approach to life, your thoughts, and your actions. Those who understand that money is merely the result of the right decisions don't limit themselves by their absence. They understand that it's important to build inner strength, and money and other resources will come when they begin acting with confidence and determination. To break out of poverty, you need to work not only on external resources. First and foremost, you need to work on yourself, on your psyche, your attitude, and your worldview. You can't change if you think your life is just a series of random events. You must understand that you create your future. You control your perception. So how do you start acting? The first thing you must do is realize that you can change your life without having $1 million. You can be poor on the outside, but not on the inside. You have the power. You have the resources. All you need is to change your perception and start acting. You stop being poor as soon as you start thinking like someone who can change their reality. It's not a coincidence, not luck, not the fact that you are surrounded by happy circumstances. It's the result of your decisions and your perception. You can be rich even if you have nothing. Poverty is not an external condition, it is a state of mind. If you want to change your life, start by changing your mindset. Start by stopping thinking of yourself as a victim of circumstances and begin seeing yourself as the one who decides what happens next. This is your reality, and you can create it. Have you ever wondered why poverty is often passed down not just through money, but through upbringing, attitude to life, and mentality? We live in a world where many of us, born into families with limited resources, begin life with the belief that we are not meant to be successful, that we must be humble, not greedy, and satisfied with little. And we don't realize that these beliefs are not upbringing, but programming. We start to believe that happiness is not always the result of our actions, but just luck. We begin to think that poverty is a normal state.
However, those who break out of poverty do so not because they were born into wealthy families or had a lot of money to start with. They break out because they learned to think differently. They learned not to be slaves to their fate, but to become masters of their own lives. They learned to control their thoughts, manage their emotions, and use every opportunity to build their path to wealth and success. They are the ones who aren't afraid to be ambitious, who aren't afraid to dream bigger. And for them, poverty is not a sentence, but a phase to be passed through. Machiavelli wrote, "A man who attempts to achieve greatness must be prepared to be surrounded by many people willing to bring him down." This truth works not only in politics, but in life as well. When you decide to step outside the ordinary and start changing something, others will doubt you, and they will try to put you back in your place. Because for most people, poverty is the familiar state. And if you dare to step out of this comfort zone, others will try to pull you back. This is the most dangerous moment on the way to success. Because at this stage, you face resistance not only from society, but also from yourself. Your own limitations begin to manifest in your thoughts and actions. You start to doubt. You ask yourself, what if I can't do it? Or what if I lose everything? These doubts are the enemies of your growth. You must learn to look at them as obstacles, not facts. If you want to get out of poverty, you need to work not only on what's in your pockets, but also on what's in your mind. You need to stop perceiving poverty as part of your identity.
Poverty is not your identity. It's just a phase that you can overcome if you start taking action. Poverty is a state that depends on your perception. You need to get rid of this perception and stop thinking of yourself as someone who can't change anything anymore. You begin to notice how opportunities appear on your path, how people who can help show up, and how you start achieving goals that once seemed impossible. But it's important to remember that you will face resistance, and if you're not ready, this resistance can break you. The resistance won't just come from other people, it will come from within yourself. Your inner mindset will try to pull you back into your old comfort zone, where you feel safe, even if this place is full of poverty and limitations. As soon as you begin to act, you will have to work not only with external circumstances, but with yourself. The most important thing you need to do is overcome your habit of justifying yourself and your failures. You must learn to face your fears and doubts rather than hiding from them. You must stop blaming others for your misfortunes and take responsibility for your life. Machiavelli said, "The impossible becomes possible when a man takes responsibility." This applies not only to politics, but also to your life. Poverty does not exist when you stop accepting it as part of your destiny. Poverty disappears when you begin to understand that it can be changed as long as you take the right steps. Every step, every action in your new, more confident path will return your strength and self-assurance. When you stop being poor on the inside, poverty on the outside begins to disappear as well. You start attracting opportunities. You begin to see opportunities that were once hidden from you. People begin to trust you. They offer you help, and you start receiving money and resources that were once unavailable. This is not magic. It is the result of your actions and changes within you. To understand that you are no longer poor, you must start acting with confidence. Poverty is not the end. It's the beginning. It's the start of the path you must walk to become a strong, successful, and self-assured person. You must change your perception of poverty and learn to think like a person who is capable of overcoming any situation. You are not just poor. You are on the path to success, and all you need to do is keep moving forward without looking back. Don't think that poverty is your fate. It may be your challenge, but it is not your end. You can be anything. You can be wealthy. You can be successful. You can be confident in yourself and your future. All you need to do is change your thoughts and stop perceiving poverty as something inevitable. This is your life, and you can take control of it. What do you think needs to be done to break out of poverty? Write about it in the comments and share your experience. Many still remain in poverty because they don't understand one important aspect. Poverty is not just the lack of money. It's the result of a wrong attitude towards life and oneself. As soon as you start thinking of yourself as a poor person, you automatically lose the ability to create something great. You become a victim of circumstances, a prisoner who thinks no one can help him escape. But here's what you need to understand. Poverty is not a sentence. It's not fate. It's not a state you should stay in forever, and it's definitely not something you can't get rid of. Your path to wealth, success, and strength begins with your attitude towards yourself. And the first step on that path is understanding that poverty is just a temporary illusion, something you can and must fight against. Poverty begins not with external factors, but with your thoughts. You need to realize that your attitude towards money and success depends on how you perceive them and yourself. If you believe that money is something you'll never be able to achieve, then you've already put yourself in a position that's hard to escape. If you're convinced that you're not worthy of wealth, your thoughts and actions will confirm this, and you'll remain stuck. However, if you change your perception, if you start believing that wealth is your right, that success and prosperity can be a part of your life, you will begin to see opportunities that were hidden from you before. You'll begin to make decisions that will move you forward, and wealth will become available to you. The most crucial step in overcoming poverty is raising your self-esteem. You can't expect others to respect you and your value if you don't value yourself. You need to learn to see your own value and be confident in your abilities. When you're confident in yourself, you start attracting people and opportunities that help you move forward. You begin making decisions based on the belief that you deserve more. Raising your self-esteem doesn't happen instantly, but you can start small. Remind yourself every day that you're capable of great things. Acceptance and respect for yourself are the foundation for others to start respecting you. The biggest enemy of success is the comfort zone. In this zone, you stay in the state that's familiar to you. You don't strive for more because you're afraid of change. You don't want to take risks. You don't want to step beyond the known. But if you want to break out of poverty, you need to step outside your comfort zone. Accepting risk and action is what leads to success. Don't be afraid to take the first steps, even if they're small. Even if you start small, it's better than staying where you were. Every new step gives you new experience and opens new horizons. You must stop being afraid of mistakes. After all, mistakes are not failures. They're part of the process. People who achieve success make mistakes, but they don't stop at them. They learn lessons, grow, and move forward. And this growth process is what makes them stronger. Have you ever thought about how the challenges you face can become a catalyst for your growth? This is what helps you become better. Your problems are not the end. They're rather the beginning of a new path. When you face a tough situation, it's important to see it as an opportunity for growth, not as an obstacle. Every problem is a lesson. Every rejection is an opportunity to improve your strategy.
It's important not to sit and complain about the circumstances, but to look for a way out of the situation. All successful people face difficulties, but they don't let those difficulties define their lives. They use them as fuel for their ambitions. To break out of poverty, you must learn to be the leader of your fate. You cannot rely on others or on circumstances to solve your problems. Leadership starts with taking responsibility for your life. You alone are responsible for what happens to you. When you take responsibility for your life, you begin to control the situation. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the author of your own story. You begin making decisions that lead you to success, and nothing will distract you from your goal. Many people live in the state of a victim. They think their life turned out the way it did, and they can't change it. They justify their poverty by external circumstances, complain about injustice, and see no way out. But this mentality only keeps them in poverty. The moment you accept the role of a victim, you lose the ability to change your life. Instead of complaining, you must take responsibility for your life and actions. Take on the role of the creator of your fate. You are not a victim. You are the author of your story. And as soon as you start acting as a creator, the world will begin to change. Time and emotion management is one of the key factors on the path to success. If you want to overcome poverty, you must learn to manage how you spend your time and how you react to external stimuli. The power lies in not giving in to emotions, but in managing them. People who stay calm in difficult situations always win. You cannot allow yourself to be a slave to your emotions. You must learn to control them and direct them in the right direction. This is what distinguishes successful people from those who remain in poverty. Finally, to create wealth, you need to start thinking strategically. Most people don't become wealthy because they don't think long-term. They focus on short-term gains and instant pleasures, rather than on building sustainable wealth. You must learn to create strategies that will help you achieve big goals. Don't grab every opportunity. Choose the paths that align with your long-term goals.
Set clear tasks and create steps for their realization. You are not poor until you accept the role of a poor person. You can be poor in your wallet, but not in your soul. And as soon as you start acting like a wealthy person, someone who controls their destiny, the world will begin to change. You become what you think you are.